morning, and welcome to Mid-Morning on this Wednesday. It's our January Spots and Spotlights. I'm Lynn Ford along with Becca Freeland. Thank you so much for joining us. Dave Walters is on a mission at a time when there are so many distractions and high tech has all but taken over family time. This dad is vowing to reach out to parents with a great way to give their kids advice, guidance, and support. What's he doing? Well, he's going to tell us right now in our last few moments of Mid-Morning. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on your program, Lynn.
Well, I know it's early on the West Coast, so I'm glad that you're able to get up and join us. How are you proposing parents talk to their kids about things like values, drugs, money, and faith?
Well, you know, there's several different ways. There's nothing like a good old dinner conversation or taking some one-on-one time with each child, but you know, if you really spend the time to organize your thoughts in the form of a personal book to your kids where you have time to think about every topic that you want to talk about with them, it's something that they'll have forever and be able to look on for years to come.
So you decided that a book is a way, as you just mentioned, for a parent to write down thoughts. And so for somebody who's automatically thinking, okay, I was looking for a great idea, and this isn't it for me because I'm not a writer, I didn't like English class, or whatever, you really do the sort of framework for a parent and can really help them along. So explain what the Book to My Kids, how it works.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, I got the idea to write a book to my kids, and at first it wasn't very well organized. I knew I just wanted to leave some type of a legacy for them and write something to them. And then as I started to write it, I decided to make different chapters on all the important topics that I wanted to discuss with them, and also about my philosophy on life. So I started the book out with a chapter on me and on my wife, and we included pictures of us through our teenage years and a little bit of information about us when we were kids and whatnot, so we could kind of connect with our kids on that level. And then about halfway through writing the book, I came up with the idea of Book2MyKids.com to help other parents write a book to their kids. And what it did is, you're right, it was difficult for me to write the book. It was hard for me to organize my thoughts and figure out what I wanted to say. So what I did with Book2MyKids.com is it's all chapter-driven. So there's suggested chapters that parents can choose from and decide whether they want to include in their book to their kids. And, of course, they can also add their own chapters if they like. They can put in whatever they want. But then the best part is within each chapter, there's shared content from other parents and a few professional writers as well. So kind of like a greeting card concept, as you read through greeting cards, if you find one that you say, wow, that's exactly what I wanted to say, and you pick that greeting card out and you give it to your child or whatever, this is the same way as you can, for each chapter, you can start looking through the shared content. And when you find content that really speaks to your heart and says what you would want to say, you just click on it. It automatically downloads right into that section of your book, and then you can modify it and make it more personalized the way you want to say. So you don't have to be a proficient writer. And, in fact, all the formatting is done automatically for you. So when you're done, you'll get a 6x9 hardcover copy of a very professional-looking book that you wrote with you as the author to your kids.
And the cost is $49 for 20 to 80 pages, and then there's an additional cost of 25 cents per page after that. Dave, give us some of the chapter topics so listeners get a sense of what will be in this book.
Absolutely, yeah. So I started out my book on God with a chapter on God and religion. There's a chapter on family, marriage, health, education, money, honesty and integrity, but then also topics like driving, drugs and alcohol, depression, and then if I ended the book with love and happiness. So it gives you a range of topics to choose from. And things that, you know, are not easy topics to talk about with your kids, maybe in person, like drugs and alcohol. But if you can put that down in writing to your kids and let them know that, for instance, driving is the most dangerous thing they're going to do on a routine basis, and tell them all the things that can happen and why they need to be so careful, yeah, it lets you talk about a whole range of topics.
So, Dave, how has writing books for your own kids impacted your family life?
Well, So I gave the book to my kids on Christmas morning 2 years ago. And but by that time, they knew I was writing the book, so they were anxiously awaiting to see what the finished result was. And, I think it really meant a lot to them because they knew that I spent a lot of time pouring out my heart into the book and covering all the important topics that I was able to communicate with them. But I think even more importantly is it'll be something that they'll have for years to come. So, my dad passed away when I was 29 years old, and I would have given anything to have a book from him, especially now. It would be great to be able to look back as to what his advice was on different topics and just reflect back on what his life was like growing up and all of the things that he would say. So I've coined or actually trademarked the phrase, it's the second most important book your kids will ever read.
What I appreciated as I was at the website looking at the layout of the book and how it could possibly be used is the idea of, none of us likes to think about dying young as a parent, but we don't know how many years we have. So to have a book that has your thoughts about life and what your life was like when you were a teenager and the lessons that you learned and what was hard for you then and what you might have done differently and what you wish for your kids and how you met your spouse and all of those kinds of things, which are the kinds of questions that kids don't tend to ask you as a mom and dad. But down the road, they may want to know. In fact, they probably will want to know. To have this in a book that really captures in a tangible way that they can return to over and over again would be such a blessing to them. David, you've done something really wonderful. You've done something for our listeners. You've provided a 20% discount code for anyone wanting to create a book. The code is valid for 6 months following the interview today. All you have to go to is to go to Book2MyKids.com. The online code is WBCL. We have this information on our website, WBCL.org. And if this is something that's just really gripped your heart and you think, you know what, this is a gift I'd like to offer my kids, well, you can do it at a 20% discount thanks to Dave Walters. Dave, thank you so much for joining us for today's Mid-Morning.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for having me on.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye. That does it for today's Spots and Spotlights Mid-Morning with Dave Walters and Book2MyKids.com. Your support helps WBCL bring Jesus into real life. And a special thanks to TrinityCommunications.org in Fort Wayne. Find out more about our supporters on our ministry homepage at WBCL.org.